Welcome to EllieMD. We go beyond traditional telehealth through building a community rooted in education, innovation, and personalized support. Tonight's conversation is especially important as we continue to explore men's health, performance, recovery, and longevity. Tonight, we're focused on giving men the education and expert insights they need to take a more proactive approach to their health. Tonight, we're thrilled and honored to welcome back Dr. Serif Krkic, a chiropractor, entrepreneur, and leader in modern regenerative medicine. With a background in exercise physiology and chiropractic care, Dr. Krkic is the founder of Zell Lifestyle Collective and Zell Vitality, where his team specializes in peptide therapy, hormone optimization, regenerative medicine, and longevity. Beyond the clinic, he's a father of two, a high school soccer coach, and the creator of the Unbreakable Leadership Camp, where he mentors young men on strength, mindset, and purpose. So he couldn't have asked for a better guest for tonight's conversation. Dr. Krkic, we're excited to have you back with us. To start, can you share what inspired your focus on men's health, performance, and longevity?
Well, it's something that I've kind of come across more recently as a chiropractor of 10 years. I've noticed a big shift in men's health and just men's mental health and their joy in life over the last, I would say, 4 years. I think the pandemic had to do with a lot of that, to be honest with you, and in a good way and in a bad way. So there were several instances for me when treating a patient or consulting a patient that comes in, usually like the 50 to 65-year-old men. Um, when you make eye contact with a male and you just kind of stay with that interaction, it's actually quite awkward, to be honest with you, on both ends. But what I've determined over the last few years is the eyes show us a lot of things. So I'm not saying that I was looking into everybody's eyes like deeply, but what I've saw is just like men were just they were just so confused in the confusionism, and there was like a void there. And the moment we kind of created a safe space for a male to kind of open up a little bit more and just kind of like dump things on the floor or just kind of shake it off a little bit. I've noticed a huge shift in me as a father and a practitioner, that I was like doing so much more than I thought I was doing for these men. So I kind of dove into about 4 years ago with the peptides and kind of how to enhance people, how to get people out of this like the system that they're pre-programmed in. So I just fell into the peptide world just because it gave me an opportunity to give people hope, especially men, of getting out of the rut of the things that they've been doing and they've been kind of programmed. So it's just ever evolving. Honestly, I'm a steward or learning and expanding my knowledge and making people feel different. So it just dropped into my lap. I didn't really have to work hard. I had a good patient base that trusted us and me with, especially with men. So I just kind of open it up to the universe, and I'm falling in. I'm leaning into that without any resistance. So I'm here to serve men, particularly, but I'm serving everybody else. So
I love that. And I like that you mentioned the eye connection. We had a guest last month kind of talk about how with men's circle, we see it a lot with women, but we don't see it as much with men. So I love that you're helping that community, and I'm excited to hear more about how you help with that. So just kind of diving in, with men's health has traditionally just meant physical health, or a lot of people just view it that way, but feeling good, thinking clearly, and staying motivated are just as much a part of men's health as his blood pressure or his testosterone levels. Where do you start when you want to address all of it together?
well, I would say the modern society has is kind of shifted our thinking about men's health, and our body doesn't understand that we have separated mental health, physical fitness, longevity into three different, medical professions. The body understands physiology and biology all at once. So just having a conversation with, you don't have to go to all these three, four different specialists. You got to go to in a little bit deeper just to have an overview first, like a simple overview that you're a human and that your biology is what really is the most important thing when it comes to like getting rid of some of your symptoms. So men really do need to understand that you're not running away from a lion, and what you're doing is your physiology is running away from the lion. So just painting a picture of what this looks like for them is not so much like segregated. You got to go see all these individual practitioners to make you feel better. Um, and I think also framing the nobody's coming to get you to save you. It's our responsibility to stand up and kind of take responsibility of our health, because that's your biggest asset. I work with high functioning males and females, and they have all this money and entrepreneurs, business owners, CEOs, but frankly, they will give it all up to just have peace of mind back. So framing it in a way that it's not so segmented is probably my most effective way. And then showing up for them, showing up for men. And I'll give you an example. I'll give you an honest example of why I'm driving tonight and still showing up to you guys, because men, it's a tough thing to be a man in our modern society. Our roles have changed, our hormones have changed, our mechanisms, our expectations have changed. So I was just hopping on 2 minutes before Brenda was able to check for the microphone. And to tell you honestly, I was having anxiety because I was working a little later for my patients. I had a full book of patients. Um, and I was sitting there. I was like, I got to get home. It was my son's first day of school today. Like, and I'm going to get there. Maybe he might be even asleep. So the perspective is like literally right now, what I'm experiencing is what men need to learn how to actually modulate their nervous system. And I think men just don't have a space to be vulnerable. And I didn't want to miss my son's at least like 30 minutes of his first day of kindergarten just because I had to stay in the office. For in his eyes, it's like, oh, dad is working and he doesn't know where I'm showing up for. And really showing up is so important. So my son is so special to me. I do everything from my heart just because of my son. And yes, and men particularly carry so much weight that they're dumping all of this stuff. Like, I want to show up to my wife and my kids the best I possibly can, not completely drained when I get home, Brenda, and showing up as the worst dad that I possibly, giving them the only little energy that I have left. So my apologies for going off a tangent, but it really is. It's a beautiful thing to have a balance like that and being open to conversations. Now I get men all the time that they're like, Doc, I mean, I feel so much better. I'm not even their therapist, which I think they do a great job. Therapy is so good. Just having the ability to listen to somebody and seeing them as a human being, as a man, oh my gosh, like it's blowing my mind. Like it is absolutely blowing my mind. And amazing things now that we can do with peptides is we can stimulate these bodily physiological functions to actually get the man to feel better so that way he can get motivated again. So thank you for listening. That's my little story.
Yeah, I love that. And thank you for sharing that story. A lot of people resonated with that as well, but I kind of want to dive into the mental health part a little, but before we go into the peptides, with men that are just less likely to seek help for anxiety, depression, emotional exhaustion, as you mentioned, but a significant part of men what they experience mentally has a direct biological driver. How do you approach that conversation with patients, and what changes when they understand the physiology behind it, when what they're feeling?
Well, it's a tough conversation to explain, and I mean, we kind of have to. So my viewpoint on that is most people are stuck in a thinking feeling loop. So the brain and the body are connected. So everything that we think can represent in our body. I can guarantee you that. You can disprove me by many studies. They'll show you that concept. The heart, the brain, and the gut are all connected. And so what we have to have them understand is you can't be always in this thinking feeling loop, because the feeling loop, you're going to constantly influence the brain. So if your dopamine and your neurotransmitters, serotonin, are disrupted by chronic stress, insulin resistance, obesity, inactivity, uh, hormonal influences, you you may feel like you're falling into the depression and so forth, but it's different. It's not just like, okay, you can be simultaneously low on testosterone, but you can also be in a depressed state as well. They can coexist with each other. So I strongly believe if we can control the feeling, the nervous system will regulate and it will recalibrate back to firing back from the brain down to the nervous system and out into the body. So hopefully, as I'm sitting down with the patient, they're kind of understanding, yes, I kind of am stuck in the thinking feeling loop. I'm always just feeling somebody pulls out in front of me, and the most familiar reaction I have is to flick them off, and you fall back into that like feeling, and that's what your body understands fully. Um, and it's been there for the most part of its life, especially if there's been like Brenda trauma in life. So one of the biggest questions that I'll ask every man, and you can, if you're a man listening to this, ask yourself, or even your parents, this question: what was I doing when I was 5 years old? What was happening to my life at 5 years old of my age? And you might not remember as yourself, but your parents will. And what type of things I had to do to gain my parents' attention. That will show up right now. If you're a 30, 40, 50, 60-year-old man, it will show up in your nervous system right now in this moment in time. And if you didn't know how to regulate that and didn't know how to modulate that, you're setting your nervous system up for a huge disaster. So that's one of the questions. I ask the tough questions. When I meet with my clients and my patients, future patients, I do not talk about the weather. I I get down deep into it really fast, and actually, men really appreciate that. Just because we just get down to business, we work that way. We're wired differently than women. You got to give more content to a woman's brain than man's brain, but we're simple creatures. We're very linear.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I could see that approach being more efficient. On the anxiety part, I want to go back a little bit to the peptides because we had a question about older adults, like longevity and memory health. So this kind of segueing into the peptide part. So with Salank being a peptide studied for its role in stress response and anxiety modulation, for a man who's carrying a lot, maybe professionally, personally, physically, what is Solank doing for them? And what might they notice from Solank that they might not notice with other approaches?
yeah, Solanka is great, guys. So you're stuck in your way of thinking, and men are very difficult, and we are stubborn. So even a high achiever, high performer, if you're a stressed out person, your brain just rewires that. So uh, what wires together fires together. So what Selenk does primarily is it will help modulate those receptors, dopamine receptors, serotonin, norepinephrine receptors. So nothing fires the same way it has been firing. So when you take Selenk, I mean, I don't think it's approved for anxiety. There was some Russian individuals, I don't remember what's his name, that did some studies on that. But it's got to the point where my feedback from my patients, it's like, oh, you know what? It's interesting. I took this and it made me feel a little different. And I ask, how so? Well, I had a moment in time that I was able to think through things. So interesting. So you're able to think through things, like you can get stimulated and then not have to respond really fast. And usually that's the response. So when it comes to an anxious person, if sometimes you get too overstimulated in the brain and you're thinking too much and you can get into a rabbit hole. But if those receptors are kind of just ebb and flowing a little bit more smoother, I think it's got it's gotten patients really good results. And then as far as Cmax, that's my that's my new favorite. That's like personal new favorite. It is like immediate. If you want to like think on the dot, on the spot, if you want to actually go out and finish a task, like you're scattered all over the place, if you're a high achiever or just you're a multitasker, and at the end of the day you don't get anything accomplished, you're like, oh shit, like what was I supposed to do? I mean, try Cmax, because Cmax just, for me, it just focuses me. So there's a lot of drugs out there that are trying to mimic this, and I think Cmax does a
Mhm.
really good job. So it's huge in the like high performers space.
Yeah, I definitely agreed. CMAX comes up a lot with conversations about focus, cognitive performance. So, for a
Yep.
man who might be feeling mentally flat or foggy, can you walk us through what CMAX is doing in the brain?
So Cmax influences the brain-derived neurotrophic factor (BDNF), which is a neuro like it's a growth factor essentially, and it influences those receptors, kind of like a book called Spark, and who wrote it, all about exercise and what exercise does in your brain. So I was a C student in undergraduate, and when I hit graduate school, I couldn't study the same way I studied in undergraduate for graduate school. So I read that book because my yes, go read this book, and I promise you you'll do better. So as the biochemistry stuff, I could care less about that stuff. But if it works, it works. So it's mimicking exercise. It's releasing all these wonderful things in the brain, cause adaptations and neuroplasticity. So fancy word for saying creating new pathways. So our brain is very complex. It's very moldable, and therefore you can influence it very fast. So even if you just go for a walk, like a brisk walk out there in a nice evening, you can stimulate the same thing as a Cmax does in the brain. But you can do it on demand. So beautiful thing about that, you can shoot it up in your nose, and right before a very stressful meeting or something like that, or a proposal, or you having a tough conversation with somebody, you can just use that and it will do the same thing.
I love that. I know we're going to be coming up on time, so I want to get to our next peptide, which is epitalon, since it is our newest peptide, and I would love for you to share some of your experience with it. So, for those who aren't as familiar with epitalon, it is a peptide that sits at the intersection of some of the most compelling longevity research available. So, for a man who might not have heard of it, can you explain what it is and how it helps with long-term health?
So yes, epitalon, it's probably the most researched peptide, and like longevity wise for a long time. It has an influence on telomerase activity. So it's a very good peptide to use twice a year to just provide more vitality for people, and slowing down the actual cycle of aging, normal cycle of aging, because of telomerase activity. The little chromosome at the end of your chromosome, you have a telomere that's constantly shortening. So we are protecting that. But It's probably one of my favorite because it really touches the primal things that we have been passed down to as humans generation is the pineal gland. It's derived from the pineal gland. And you have some good stuff in your pineal gland. They say that 7 generations of DNA has been passed down through there. So reactivating some of these things, I've had patients, Brenda, respond like have these amazing, you know, how do I put it? Like discoveries about themselves, or they have these amazing ideas that they had not had before. They sleep better, yeah, especially sleep. So if a man is having a difficult time sleeping, uh, yeah, give Epitalon a try. I really do think that's a great avenue to start um, exploring like sleep deprivation, not necessarily uh, deprivation. You still need sleep, but it will help you go into that deeper REM cycles.
Mhm. On the circadian rhythm, we know that epitalon, and you had mentioned at the beginning of the call, the melatonin
Oh, fun.
production. For a man whose sleep quality who might be has been bad recently, and it's affecting his mood, hormones, recovery, what does restoring that circadian rhythm actually change about how he's feeling day to day?
Well, first of all, I mean, it can directly improve your hormone levels, like testosterone. We've seen testosterone plummet from, 700, 800 on average to now 400. So if you're a young man and you're feeling that sluggish brain fog, no energy in the afternoons and things of that nature, that no low libido. So if you just recover your circadian rhythm, which is the most natural physiology that we can actually do it most naturally we possibly can. But if we can give you something that can enhance that process, then I would say even with 3 days going to sleep before 9 p.m. and waking up before 7 a.m. Do that for 3 days. I guarantee you, your energy level, your mood, your sex drive is going to improve. You probably have more just drive to do everything in your life. So that's a simple answer for you, Brenda. It's going to improve many things in your body, especially hormones.
I love that. And it seems like a really good mini challenge to not even just men, but anyone. Just 3 days, go to sleep before 9, wake up before 6.
Yeah, if you take
So
one thing from me tonight, let's do that.
I love it. And I know we're coming up on time, and I definitely want you to get to your son. So, as we wrap up with mental well-being, peptide science, and longevity, what does this all look like for a man who's bringing all of these together? And what do you say to those who are starting to realize that feeling better today is not just investing in the years ahead? It's about having the same goal. You don't have to treat these as two separate goals. They could be the same.
Ask me that more simply.
I know that was a mouthful. So let's just go with the first part. So how would a man who's, we're wrapping this up with mental well-being, peptide science, and longevity. What do you say to a man who's trying to bring all of these together? And just approaching it as an individual goal rather than separate goals. It's not just about improving your well-being or getting maybe on a peptide or trying to do these lifestyle changes to improve their longevity. We could treat all of this as one goal.
Hmm. Yes. Well, here's something that a very, very important person, a man that has earned, he lived, and now he's learned to give back so much. And he's gone through so many things. He told me this one thing is like new mantra, and I love it. We have to let go, first of all, man. Let go. What has happened has happened. You wake up, you got another chance. So let go, wake up, and let's go, baby. So be open to just like trying something new. Uh, Cut out the noise. There's influencers everywhere. Stop trying every little thing. Just invite and just try to see what will one thing will do, experience it, and experiment with certain things and allow that space for you to just be kind of like vulnerable, which men, we're not vulnerable, and be authentic. Hopefully my little story tonight is an inspiration to, go with your gut and go with simple ways. I, yes, there's science now. Follow different people. Follow my buddy, Dr. Jason, if you want to learn all that gibberish stuff with chemistry. Dr. Jason Pensick. Order yourself an Epitalon. You do that twice a year, and it will improve your life dramatically. God bless you all, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Dr. Serif, and thank you all for tuning in. I hope you have a great one, Dr. Serif, and congrats to your son for his first day at preschool.
Yes, thank you. They just passed me on the road,
Oh,
and I'm coming home at the same
perfect
time. So I really
timing.
do appreciate you guys just dealing with me and driving. So hopefully I
Of
didn't cut out
course.
too much.
No, thank you for educating us, and thank you all again for tuning in. Good night.